2, 1. Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, documentaries and related media are embodiments of ideologies which are carried and spread throughout society. So documentaries about Vince McMahon, Luigi Mangione, and Al Capone run the risk of glorification and romanticization of bad acts, regardless if these people were convicted or not. This looks like Vince McMahon using his clout and prestige with WWE to be able to shroud allegations of sexual assault and related crimes. This looks like Luigi Mangione and maybe the handsome actor who'd portray him to romanticize and somehow justify fucking gunning down United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in cold blood. Or Al Capone using the sexiness of the Mafia and all of those frills to justify his cartel and his consiglieres to be able to do things like murder, hits, drug trafficking, and human assault, ladies and gentlemen. We believe there is too much risk when you create these forms of media, and we oppose its creation in order to be able to protect young people and society from sympathy and believing that these particular actions in some way, shape, or form can be justified. A few features of our model. Number one, what do we mean by oppose? This can be in hard and soft ways. By hard ways, I mean directly voting and supporting leaders and propping up related institutions to clamor against its creation, and in soft ways, being able to lobby and clamor against these particular things on social media and in the internet sphere. Make no mistake, this debate is not about the educative function of these particular things and getting their side, because regardless of these particular people being accused or not, because we understand that in many instances they can be controversial, in many instances it can be divisive, these particular documentaries and media are in many cases created by large companies like Netflix, Paramount, Warner Brothers, who in many instances have a profit incentive to be able to maximize the sensationalization that they create when they cast attractive actors or be able to portray these things in somehow an appealable way. They frame and humanize the extent of what these people are accused of in order to be able to gather sympathy. So people are ultimately able to talk about it. People can have quote-unquote discourse. But in reality, you run the risk of people believing in utter evil and perversion. Number two, in some instances, these particular cases are works in progress. I understand that there might be an ongoing kind of investigation and process, and even in the best case of side opposition, these people aren't accused or these people aren't necessarily convicted. We don't want to be able to preempt fact with the entertainment value of a documentary as something that you fucking watch on Netflix while eating junk food, because the reaction of people is particularly perverse. People looking at Jeffrey Dahmer and saying, he's kinda handsome, don't you think? People looking at Luigi Mangione, seeing his smile and saying that he was justified in his murder because people in many cases are against capitalism. This takes the discussion away from the actions they've done or are accused of and center it around their cults of personality, which often run the risk of emotional bias and charm that get in the way of actual discussion to be able to make a sound and valid judgment. The third point is a preemption on discourse, because I think discourse in itself isn't necessarily good, it isn't necessarily effective, and discourse for the sake of discourse can run the risk of being bad and being perverted. On our comparative, we rather have you learn about these particular people through more legit sources, like actual news sites and agencies documenting fact and not putting the sexiness and flair of Hollywood and all of these tricks and mirrors of the documentary to be able to portray these particular people in a way that they should be humanized. We also support things like primary sources, books, and directly interviewing and talking to not these fuckers, but the people who they've affected, the people they've killed, the families who are affected by all of the things that they do, in order to truly understand the extent of what they're accused of. And in many instances, even if these people didn't do it, or even if there's some sort of doubt, it simply isn't worth the risk. What is the argument? The argument is simple. Why are these documentaries potentially harmful? And why do we oppose its creation in order to be able to prevent people from consuming harmful media? Number one, because when people watch these documentaries, the average person who might be susceptible to biases and not the most intelligent or educated, people are lulled into a false sense of understanding. Especially because the way these things are marketed prey and capitalize on the short attention spans of people. Take note how these documentaries are often promoted in the internet sphere. Reels, clickbait, things on IG Reels or TikTok that ultimately sensationalize this thing when you show an attractive actor or actress portraying them, or even focus on certain cults of personality around these people. The harm is that people, when they watch these things, yeah, bro, I get it. That guy's legit, man. And it's not like people suddenly start taking a more specific, nuanced interest and start taking very specific actions to discuss what's happening. It often starts and ends with the documentary. Number two, uniquely through that documentary, they often use emotional biases and other marketing ploys to be able to maximize viewership, as opposed to maybe direct interview, direct fact that gives you a more partial picture of these things, because it centers it around the persona and their cults of personality and not something towards the evil and actions they've done, which we think cannot be the white elephant in the room. This is something that has to be reckoned with, wherein regardless of who you are or where you come from, it's kind of fucked up to be a pedophile. Sexual assault is not justified, and murder, ladies and gentlemen, even you don't like the 1% foaming in the mouth with Eat the Rich, is something bad and what we condone. Ladies and gentlemen, these documentaries in many instances can capitalize on people's insecurities and people's emotions, and we think there is too much risk. We do not allow these things to exist. Very proud to stand on Side Prop. Thank you.